shuffle to get us all in here.
Is in there typing away. Sorry.
Well, that's good, not a bad thing, actually.
We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 15th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
First item is item 2, unfinished business. Consider authorization and execution of contract C-203-2013 with the Topeka Premier Umpire Association for professional services to hire, schedule, train, and provide game officials for the Parks and Recreation Leagues, and provide umpire-in-chief services for the baseball, softball tournaments, games played at Lake Shawnee and other area parklands and facilities for approximately $40,000, and additional compensation for umpires, officials, and clinics, recovered by user fees. Parks and Recreation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby, Parks and Recreation. This item's before you again. We had taken the contract back, and we used some different language that I feel is a little clearer now. Be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Randy. There remaining questions?
Just, I wanted to point out, this is a substantially different contract than what we started out with. And so I thank you in going through and helping work through some of the questions that I had. When we look at the contract, one thing I want to point out is that there's a line on the Appendix A that says the county will determine the number of officials per game, per sport. And that's substantially different than the prior contracts. In the past, it looks like we've been spending around $200,000 to $250,000 on umpires, and those are recovered by our user fees, right?
Correct.
And so this leaves it open-ended, so the clerk's office won't have an exact contract to go back to say we have 2 people for this sport, 3 people for this sport. It'll be determined by the Parks and Rec Department how many you need, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's the only thing that I want to just make sure we point out.
Okay. Anything else? We did say 40,000. On the most recent memo, it says 35,000.
I just noticed that
Yeah.
it is closer to 40.
It's closer to 40.
Yeah, I believe last year was 42 off the top of my head, so it's usually around that 40,000 mark.
Later in the agenda also, Randy, we have a purchase of software. That has been deducted.
Yes, it has, reflects in the contract. We've had them in the previous years pay for that, but we went ahead and paid for it since the license was due. And it's probably better under our control anyway, so we feel more comfortable with that as it is.
Okay.
Randy, in the past on the software, and I know that's later down the agenda, maybe a little bit premature, but in the past, didn't we have premier umpires pay for it and then we reimburse them for that cost?
We didn't, we did, we paid them, yes, exactly. The $8,500, it went from $8,500 now to $59, or whatever it is now, so, yes,
Okay.
But we will own the software
yes.
at this when we get to that point. Okay. Yep, something that needs to come to our attention, Counselor. Might as well. Hey?
Rich Eckert, County Councilor. I would only point out that in your memorandum, there's a sentence there that says that the contractor will act as an independent contractor to us, is part that's missing. And then with the sports officials being employees of the contractor, and I don't think that part is right. I think they will be independent contractors of our independent contractor. It's probably not written that way in the agreement, but in the cover memo, I do want to make that they're not employees. They also are independent contractors.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move to approve the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, that was a tie.
Oh.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Your motion on the consent agenda? or
I'll make a
questions?
motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, we have one set of vouchers dated April 12, 2013, in the amount of $804,817.32. I'll make a motion to approve, but I will have a couple of questions on the vouchers.
Second.
So motion to approve, second by Commissioner Cook. Questions?
Alice? Good
Alice
morning.
Weingartner, Health Agency, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to ask a question. We had a voucher for $1,600 for the Indiana primary care.
That was for the corporate compliance workshop that myself and Aaron Scraper just attended last Thursday and Friday.
Okay,
That was the registration
okay. And where was it held?
in Indianapolis.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
And then, Mr. Knight, I have a few on Parks and Rec. The first one is Barco Products in the amount of $1,385.
Barco, I believe that was purchased by our Parks Division.
Okay.
Barco is, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Terry Birtles, Parks and Rec. Barco is a provider of park furnishings, trash cans, benches, picnic tables, items like that. I believe we recently had a purchase of trash cans, but I'm not 100% sure that's what that is.
Okay.
It's a contract that we use with some regularity, or a
Okay.
vendor, I should say.
We had a voucher of about $1,300 total for Ball Horticultural. What is that for?
We buy seeds and plugs for annual planting from Ball and various other horticultural supplies.
Okay. And one finally, ISS Facility Services, we had total vouchers in the amount of $8,467.87. What was that for?
ISS is the contracting provider that does the cleaning of the courthouse on a monthly basis. There might be another one out there that makes it, it's like $7,000, or another one that would bring it up to that number.
Is that Bob's Janitorial?
No,
Is it-
it's a separate one.
Separate.
We have contract with Bob Janitorial for a couple of other locations. ISS might do some of the health agency.
Okay.
In the courthouse.
But that's specifically the courthouse and the health agency.
It's specifically whatever that contract calls for, and I'm sorry, but I can't recall exactly what those are.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. That's all I had, Madam Chair.
Questions?
No, actually, no.
Okay, all right. All of those in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0.
Item A3, consider approval of the annual renewal of Home Depot ARC tax exemption for 2013. And Commissioners, this is a little bit different than the other exemptions you've seen recently. This is actually an IRB, Industrial Revenue Bond, and their only requirement as far as the county is concerned is they have to send a letter to the county saying that they have met the requirements. The requirement is that they pay their in lieu of taxes, and they have $1,000, and they have done so.
Thank you. Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
So motion to approve by Commissioner Archer,
Second.
second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item B, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider approval of request to award bid to Briggs Dodge for the purchase of a new 2013 3/4-ton four-wheel drive pickup for an amount of $25,788.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Black with Public Works and Solid Waste. This is a Public Works issue. Prior to the two new commissioners coming on, the prior commission had granted our department approval to go out for bids for a new pickup for our bridge department. They have currently they have a 1998 vehicle, which was going to need about $8,000 to $10,000 worth of repairs. And then in looking at the maintenance records for that vehicle, the maintenance costs for that vehicle had basically been increasing every year until they basically doubled over the last few years. So in lieu of putting in the $8,000 to $10,000 for the repair, and also knowing that the the maintenance costs had been increasing. They'd given us the approval to go out for bids, which we've done and have now received them. We received 3 bids, and the low bidder, including trade-in, was submitted by Briggs Dodge here in Topeka, for the amount of $25,788, and it is our recommendation that the award be granted to Briggs. So if there's any questions, and the funding for this will come from Public Works Special Machinery Fund. So if there's any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Tom. Questions at this time?
Move to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item B2, consider approval of resolution number 2013-37, assessing annual delinquent sewer service fees.
Commissioners, and this is a little bit of information for the 2 new commissioners. The county has sewer systems out primarily in the southwest part of the county, and oftentimes we will get involved with developer projects where developers wanting to develop a subdivision, and they take out financing through the county, and usually that's done for the sewer system and for streets. This particular situation, or let me back up a little bit, typically when that happens is we get all the costs, the fees for like sewer charges, a connection fee from the developer up front. In this particular case, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'm not sure how long ago it was, the commission at that time allowed the developer to assess those charges, those connection fee charges, to the lots and then pay them back over a period of time. So that's what's been going on in this particular subdivision for the past however many years. However, each year there's usually a few, or well, it's been whittling down because these are about ready to be paid off, but some people that don't pay their assessments. So we give them notices to pay their fees. After 2 or 3 notices that they're delinquent, then we, once a year, we'll come before the commission and say we want to assess these to their taxes because they are unpaid. And that is what this memo is about. It's the annual resolution that would assess the fees to those folks listed on the attachment. So there's, or rather put the fees towards their taxes. So if there's any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Tom, you said they have been given notice at least twice?
Yes.
Commissioner Archer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sounds to me like this causes a lot of extra work when people don't honor their bills.
Yes, it does.
Do we charge penalties? Do we penalize people that don't pay their bills on time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Should we?
It might be helpful.
Okay. I would
Yeah,
appreciate if you would look into that.
and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of this method of doing the connection fee up front. It makes it a lot simpler. This method of assessing them over time is a lot of extra administrative work.
Yeah, I would suggest, with all due respect, that you take a look and
Yeah.
something that causes extra work, that when people don't pay their bills, they ought to pay a price for that.
I think quite possibly, though, with this arrangement existing, we may not be able to, and I'm going to defer. I think that's come up before, unfortunately.
Well, this area of the law is governed by statute, and we've had some rulings in the last 4 or 5 years, particularly with how counties do business, that we can't assess extra fees unless the statute provides a mechanism for us to do that. And that's one of the things that we're going to be working with KAC to get changed in the law, and I think we're going to push on that next year. But this is one of those things that the statute allows us to assess the same way that we assess back taxes, by putting it on the tax roll. But there's no other mechanism for adding anything for our costs. I will say, though, that this is our best financial investment, because when these taxes are delinquent, and that includes specials such as this, we get a pretty good interest rate on those. And since it's backed by the property, ultimately when we sell that at a tax sale, if it goes this far, which it actually doesn't that often, we get all that money back.
Thanks, Rich.
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Vlock, on these sewer delinquencies, have we had any correspondence from these 6 individuals as to why they haven't been paid?
No, not that I'm aware of. I personally have not, and I don't believe my staff has either.
I'm gonna ask at this time if anyone in the audience, wants to comment on this. Just in case they might be
All right,
present.
thank you.
I guess I do know, I guess I'm aware of one that had called, and I think they had actually paid a portion of their bill, but left a portion of it unpaid. So I believe there was some communication with one of the owners, and I can't recall which one it is, but I don't know if they just lost it. I think it was an honest mistake on that particular case.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Item C, Health Agency. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 228-2013 with Dr. Robert E. Jacoby for PRN professional services at a rate of $80 per hour.
Good morning, Commissioners. Both this item and the second item kind of go together, so I don't know if we want to address them simultaneously or if you would prefer to. They both deal with Dr. Jacoby and our ability to contract with him. If we do contract with him, then the second item we would also need to have in place as well.
I'll just go ahead and read these.
Item C2, consider approval to pay $2,535 for medical malpractice insurance coverage for Dr. Robert E. Jacoby for the period of time from April 15th, 2013 through January 1, 2014.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alice Weingartner, Shawnee County Health Agency. The request to have this contract in place with Dr. Jacoby really helps support us in maintaining clinical services when we have providers who do take vacation, who do tend training that may take them out of town. Dr. Jacoby has a long history of working within our organization, primarily in our prenatal program, which is where he will probably spend the majority of his time, but he has also indicated he may cover some primary care services as well. In order to do this, we are asking, and the board, the Community Health Center board, supports us also paying his malpractice insurance, which you see is at that prorated rate of $2,535. In doing a review of provider schedules over the next, from May through November, there's probably about 6 weeks worth of time that we will have at least one provider off. And so we would propose this schedule to Dr. Jacoby to see how his schedule may work in covering some of these times.
Thank you, Alice. Remind me, we normally pay the medical malpractice for
those that we
physicians?
hire, yes. For those that we employ, we do, yes. But because he is retired, that's why we've gone a little bit of a different route with him this time.
Okay. Other questions?
Now, I'll make a motion to approve C1, which is the contract with Dr. Jacoby.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archer and second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. And for the second item, are there questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Archer,
Second.
second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item C3, consider approval of request to issue requests for proposal for the replacement of a colposcope machine at the Van Sickle Thorn Clinic at an estimated cost not to exceed $6,800.
The pronunciation was perfect.
I hate that
I'm
word.
not
I
surprised.
hate that word. I practice it all morning. It's a really hard word to say.
This machine, as it explains in the memo, provides a very detailed support for providing women's exams, gynecological exams, and this is an instrument that is used by our women's health providers. As you can see, this machine is more than 15 years old. There was some speculation that it was even 20 years old. Right now, they have done their very best to keep this machine in working order, but we're at the point where we can no longer make fixes to it, and so we're needing to replace it. And we do have the funds available to do that.
Estimated cost is $6,800.
$6,800, yes. And we have already started obtaining bid information, and we're prepared to go out for the formal request for proposal following the action on this item.
Thank you, Alice. Other questions?
I'd move to approve.
This motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item D, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of request to purchase equipment needed for maintenance of golf courses in a total amount of $150,050.37.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. This item has been before you before. The last time it was before the commission, these purchases for the golf course were tabled until the white paper for the golf courses was submitted. Since that time, we have submitted the white paper for the golf courses. I do have Carrie Golden, who's the golf course or the golf division director, here with me today, just in case somebody asks the question, what's the difference between a 3,400 and a 3,500, which I would not be able to answer. But also, Carrie is relatively new, having started here just a little over 2 years ago. You have a culmination here at the golf courses of an overly frugal golf course superintendent with a limited budget for several years, plus the acquisition or the merger of the Cypress Ridge Golf Course, in which the equipment that came along with that did not increase the overall value of our fleet. There are several items listed in there that they need to be replaced, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, John.
Madam Chair, may I?
Sure.
John, the first question I had was, these mowers that we're talking about purchasing today, are they contained within the strategic plan that you had previously submitted to the commission?
They are not in the strategic plan. I tried to make note in there, and maybe it's in there, and maybe it isn't, but the golf course the parks equipment, it's a very thorough plan in the strategic plan for the parks equipment, but it did not address the golf equipment, and we have put that together now. The next one will, and we do have a pretty comprehensive list now. I will say that the request here is to use a source of that saves us a big discount is the First Tee program. The Lake Shawnee Golf Course, Shawnee County Parks and Rec, is a member of the First Tee, in which they only allow one franchise in each community. This gives us a 30% discount. Comparing that to some of the other equipment purchases we've looked at and also done through the parks, the best we were able to get through other joint purchasing alliances was somewhere around 23%.
Now, on the strategic plan, even though this equipment is not listed, the strategic plan does list out a number of mowers that the Parks and Recreation Department already has.
Correct.
Why wouldn't we be able to use the mowers that we already have for the golf course?
Several of these are very specialized equipment. For instance, greens mowers. There's a big difference between a greens mower and just your standard mower that you're mowing in the park. The height of the cut, the dependability that's needed. Help me out here, Carrie. But we mow every day with a greens mower. Okay. And the height of that. If you've been to a golf course, and it has happened to us too, the dependability of some of these pieces of equipment is essential. You drive along there with a hydraulic leak in a line, any number of certain things that could happen with older pieces of equipment could end up hindering a green for an entire summer.
Out of the listed mowers, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basic mowers that are outlined, which of these are the greens mowers?
So I think it might be helpful, Carrie, if you just walk us through this
You bet.
and explain what each does.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kerry
Thank you.
Gold, Director of Golf. The prioritized pieces of equipment that we have a greens mower for Cypress Ridge Golf Course. That's, as John had mentioned, our number one priority on our golf courses are our putting greens. And these mowers are designed, right now we're mowing just slightly above 1/8 of an inch, so they are specially designed for that purpose itself. We also have a greens mower for Lake Shawnee and a tees mower for Cypress. A question regarding the heights of cuts as compared to what we use in our other parks. I mean, we're using the other park mowers to maintain fescue at 2.5, 3 inches height of cut, and they're not designed to do what we need them to do, specialized equipment.
Go ahead.
If I might, just out of those three then,
Yes,
we're replacing three,
yes.
and then those are going to be, what's going to be done with
I
those?
have, on one of these, there are 3 total mowers. We would be trading in 1 used mower, 1 used greens mower, and 1 used tees mower.
Okay. And the other one?
And the other one we will use as, we will convert it to basically a collar mower, which is, it was only used like 3 times a week versus 6, 7 days a week. So less wear and tear on that machine. We're kind of hand that machine down.
And that was gonna be where my question was going, is we already have a greens mower and a tees mower.
Yes, sir.
But you're replacing, I mean, if we were to break this down, we only need to actually buy 1 greens mower. We already have a greens mower and a tees mower.
Standard on an 18-hole facility, you usually have 2 greens mowered each golf course. So right now, that's what we have at Cypress Ridge. Same thing we only have 1 at Forbes, and we have 2 at Lake Shawnee.
Okay, and then just to break out the cost, we're talking about each one of these costing $27,901
That's correct.
per mower.
Correct.
Okay. And then, do you know what their trade-in value is going to be?
No, I don't. The used units are the ones we're looking at trading in from Cypress. I would guess they'll probably go for a couple $1,000 trade-in value, maybe. The units that we have at Cypress Ridge right now, I apologize for not having this up. We have a 2000 John Deere 2500, and that has right now 3,800 hours on it. And then we also have at Cypress Ridge a 2005 John Deere. It has 2,500 hours. One thing that I have through the years is to try to explain the hours on this type of equipment. These 2 pieces of equipment are gasoline engines, and a point being is what I've been told, if you've got a gasoline engine, a greens mower for example, that has 1,000 hours on it, that's equivalent to about 100,000 miles as compared to like on a vehicle. So with that being said, right now we've got 2 greens mowers that are basically like a 300,000 mile vehicle. So they're pretty wore out, and we definitely need to do something with those.
Without sounding like I'm trying to go cheap, what is the benefit or the lack of thereof of trying to find a used or a relatively new Greensmaster 3400 as opposed to buying a brand new piece of equipment?
I would guess that it'd just be the dependability of a new piece of equipment. I mean, less maintenance on it, saving cost, labor dollars on repair cost. We're going to get probably 5 to 7 years of lifespan out of the greens mower, predominantly for a diesel engine.
I mean, wouldn't we use the same analysis if I go to a car lot as opposed to buying a brand new car that I know I have a brand new warranty on? I'll have maybe more dependability as opposed to buying a slightly used car
Right.
that I might be able to get a limited warranty on.
Right. Usually, typically, they use the equipment for the lifespan 5 to 7 years. Usually, you do not find anything like a 1-year or 2-year-old model unless if somebody would trade in or get completely out of the business or something like that. But usually, you typically can't find one for they're a couple years old.
Go ahead and go on down then to the
Okay.
second one.
Greens mowers were first on the list. The next piece of equipment is the Toro Sand Pro. Cypress Ridge did not have a bunker rake or Sand Pro used to rake sand traps. It's a mechanical piece of equipment. We transferred an extremely old piece of equipment from Lake Shawnee to Cypress to give them one to maintain their bunkers. The new bunker rake that I'm requesting, we would move that to Lake Shawnee Golf Course and then take the other older unit and move it over to Cypress Ridge. We're basically just bumping down the equipment, I guess. The Toro Pro Pass 2000, that is a machine that we use through the aerification process and top dressing our greens with. It's basically like a sand spreader, if you will. Hydraulics. We also use this as part of our regular maintenance at Lake Shawnee. Last year, every 2 weeks we were in the maintenance program of putting a light top dressing on our putting greens, which helps us out. It's a great maintenance practice. But with that being said, we do have one unit. Currently, we tow it from golf course to golf course, and we did that this past week through airification. So what we'd like to do is keep the unit at Lake Shawnee Golf Course and add a unit to Cypress Ridge where we can follow up with this maintenance procedure. The Toro Pro Force debris blower, there are 2 units, one for Lake Shawnee and one for Cypress. It's just a leaf blower, I guess you might say, that is it's pulled behind a golf cart. It's mechanic or engine attached to it. But at Lake Shawnee Golf Course during the summer months, we have a problem with a lot of clippings on our Zoysia fairways. We would like to be able to have that at Lake Shawnee as well as Cypress to help remove the clippings on our fairways. We can also utilize that during the airification process as far as blowing sand into the greens, and also obviously using it for the fall months as far as leaf removal on the golf courses. The Toro Grounds Master 350D, that is it's a specialized rotary unit that we use. We currently have one at Lake Shawnee, and there is one at Cypress. We use that to mow our greens complexes, the sloped areas, to prevent the scalping that you would get on a fixed unit like we have currently in the Parks Department. So it's basically a flotation type mower, individual cutting units that float with the contour of the ground. So it's specialized for slopes.
Gary, what anticipated cost will you have next year on equipment? I mean, is this something we're going to see every year, or is it something
Right,
that we
right.
can-
Next year, I do not foresee us needing this much. We will have to look at a couple tractors eventually, and that's what we use to maintain our rough with. We use a pull-behind unit. We do have a couple older tractors in the system. I would say that would be in a year or two, we'd be looking at something like that.
When we talked about the mowers last, we talked about that it didn't matter what time of the year we bought them, we're gonna have the same price wherever.
Correct.
So knowing that and knowing that we can get the same price no matter when, out of these, which are our priority? Which ones do we need to do now as opposed to being able to space out some of these? Or should we be thinking about it that way?
Well, we can, but our greens mowers would be our #1 priority. That's what I had taken this list, and I tried to create a little bit more justification or prioritize, if you will, as far as what I feel we need is our highest priority items. So.
Further questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. What happens if we don't do any of this, if we don't buy any of the equipment? What happens to our golf course operation?
Well, it's a day-to-day thing. It's a gamble. It's a risk that we're taking. I do know that last year, our first year of operating Cypress Ridge Golf Course, with the 2 old greens mowers that they had, it was day-to-day, hoping that we would not have any hydraulic problems on our putting greens. We have had problems with those units out there, so we can continue to maintain, but it is a risk that we're taking day-to-day with that. And with that being said, we train our staff, and that's the #1 thing on our list when we go out and train these guys to mow greens, for example. That is #1 on the list, to look for hydraulic leaks, drops, whatever it may be, the warning signs of something that's going to blow up on it. So, or create major problems for us. So it's every day with those particular units, and we have replaced hydraulic hoses, and but that's what we do. We run the risk of having problems on our putting greens.
We had asked a question before about whether we should continue in the
Correct.
golf course management business, and I think what's going to determine that is #1, the master plan that Parks and Rec is going to perform, and then #2, how we perform in the golf course business for the year
Correct.
2013. The white paper that Mr. Knight did, I think he did a good job, but I don't think it was definitive of what we should do. But it did point out some of the very positive things that golf courses in Shawnee County do. and they were tied to our mission, vision, and values, and that's always
Correct.
important to me, that everything we do should be linked
Mhm.
to mission, vision, and values. But to look at the events that we have, to look at the employment picture, to look at the First Tee organization, all of the positive things that our golf course operation currently does for us, I'm going to make a motion to approve as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
I will second, but I do have one final question.
Sure.
Based on the statements made by Commissioner Archer, do you know what our depreciation costs are for these mowers? If we were to get out of the golf business, we're not losing all the money. These would be assets that we would be able to
Correct.
sell. And so, I mean, is it like buying a car, the minute you drive off the lot, its value has been cut in half?
I would not say it'd be cut in half, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Sure.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. I'm gonna ask this question, and you'll probably tell me what you wanna hear instead of what I wanna hear, but do you need both greens mowers at this time? I mean, can you deal with the 2005? Or give me the justification.
Yeah, it's, we don't absolutely have to have two greens mowers. One of them would be great, and we'll just continue to use this old one and just see what happens with that. It's kind of tough to answer that because
I know,
they're,
and you've
I
got
mean,
two votes right here already.
it could be fine today, but next week we may have major problems.
I might change my mind.
Well, I was,
We need a 2-to-1 vote on something.
well, I guess I'm just, you can go for two, but do you actually need to, They're both working
I might
right
just
now.
say, what Carrie doesn't know is we have been operating under that philosophy for many, many years, and that's why we are where we are right here. How bad is bad? I think I would not have had this come on down to the commission had I not thought that we needed this
Well,
equipment.
and I guess what I'm kind of looking for is a more staggered approach to this on how we're spending our dollars on equipment, and it's not all in one huge lump sum like this. And I'd look for that in the future, that we could do that, couldn't we?
Correct.
For all three courses, so. All those in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Item D2, consider authorization and execution of contract C 229-2013 with the Colmarie O'Neill Veterans Administration Medical Center for a compensated work therapy program, which is a vocational rehabilitation training opportunity for veterans. Shawnee County reimburses the local Office of Veteran Affairs in the amount of $8.25 per hour for regular hours worked and $12.38 for each hour over 40 hours worked within a week.
Good morning, Commissioners. Terry Burtles. She said it. That's what I was gonna say. It's a voc rehab program. We work with the VA to have staff at our facilities at Lake Shawnee, working with our horticulture section. They do a great job. We pay their wages, and the VA is responsible for other benefits that go on with it. We've done it in the past. It's worked well, and we'd like to continue to do it.
Thanks, Terry. Any questions? Move approval of the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries
Thank you.
3-0.
Item D3, consider approval of sole source purchase of a license for software used by Topeka Premier Umpires in this amount of $2,539.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby. We kind of talked about this with unfinished business. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Randy.
Commissioner.
Item E, Commission, number 1, consider appointment of Brenda Mills to the Juvenile Correction Board for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2016.
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Bueller, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Item E2, consider reappointment of Diane DeBacker, Kent Reed, and Jim Campbell to the Community Corrections Advisory Board for 2-year term expiring June 30th, 2015.
Questions or motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. And on both of those items, our thanks to those who are willing to serve on those boards. We have a number of them, and we appreciate their help.
Item 5, administrative communications.
At this time, I do want to introduce Betty. If you want to come to the podium. Betty is our new financial administrator, and I just wanted to bring you up in front of the cameras, and if you want to have anything to say.
Well, I'm just very excited to be here and look forward to working with all of you. And just my mission is to have the most transparent and accurate financials for Johnson County.
Shawnee.
Oh.
Shawnee County.
I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right.
For Shawnee County. I once lived in
Very good. Welcome.
Don't feel bad, Betty. I used to work for Nebraska for a county named Seward County, and when I first became the clerk, I would say Seward County many times.
Thank you.
So
Make
I
me
feel
feel better.
your pain.
Thank you.
Sorry, George, you have anything to say?
I just wanted to welcome Betty too, and we're fortunate to have you. You're a CPA with over 30 years of budget and auditing management experience, and I'm thrilled you're here. And for weeks after I came on the commission, I kept referring to the city council and the city clerk. So it's easy to do, but welcome.
Thanks. And I think Stephanie's coming forward to talk to us about the blood drive, but I did want to say congratulations on her recent award and a nice article in the paper. And then also I want to say congratulations to Joan Graves. She has been nominated for a Women of Excellence Award with the YW, so congratulations
Very cool.
to
Thank
both.
you. Stephanie Mott, Office Assistant in the County Commission Office, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we have our blood drive on Friday, and we still have a lot of openings. We need about 20 more people to step up if we can. You don't have to be a Shawnee County employee to donate. Please, department heads, if you meet with your people this week, make sure to let them know the community blood center tells us that they are really low on their blood supply. So if anybody has any questions, they can contact me at 251-4040.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight. Apparently Stephanie does not been following the agendas because I feel like I just gave a bunch of blood here. I did want to make note to the commissioners that we have a couple of events coming up this week. We have the Chamber After Hours going to be held at 4:30 at the Helen Hawker Theater, highlighting our new partnership with the Topeka Civic Theater. Also, then this coming Saturday at 2 o'clock, our Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Foundation is having its annual event, and that's going to be out at Lake Shawnee, and it'll highlight some of the past accomplishments from the past year of the foundation and also what they're hoping to do in the future. And everyone is invited.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. While we're speaking of blood, I think it's only appropriate that I point out that our second half property tax statements went out last Wednesday. They are due May the 10th. I would certainly encourage everyone to pay early, as well as take advantage of paying online or through the mail, and certainly don't wait till the last minute and find yourself standing in a long line. Glad to answer any questions.
I have none. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to congratulate Terry. You and the Conservation District last Thursday did an amazing job with the panel about Lake Shawnee and clean water, and we had a great turnout. How many people? Over 100 easily. So you all did a really fantastic job. Anything else? Okay.
Item 6, executive session.
And there is a need for an executive session for a period not to exceed 10 minutes for non-elected personnel. That's one reason that I have, unless you have others.
Consultation with the attorney for any attorney-client relationship.
Okay. And any extension of the time, 10 minutes, okay.
10 minutes will do.
That is a motion, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0, and no action anticipated.
it for Monday morning.
All right. We are back in session, no action required.